On December 21st, 2001, two bipartisan pairs of senators introduced legislation to create independent 9/11 commissions. Senators Joe Lieberman and John McCain proposed to create a 14-member bipartisan commission with subpoena power. At the same time, Robert Torricelli and Charles Grassley proposed to create a 12-member board of inquiry with subpoena power. White House spokesman Ann Womack is non-committal about the proposals, saying in response, "We look forward to reviewing them. Right now, the president is focused on fighting the war on terrorism." By January 24, 2002, Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle later claims that on this day, Vice President Dick Cheney calls him and urges that no 9/11 inquiry be made. President Bush repeats the request just 6 days later, and Daschle is repeatedly pressured thereafter. Newsweek summarizes one of these conversations in an article dated February 4th, 2002. Quote, Bush administration officials might say they're too busy running the war on terrorism to show up, press the issue, and you risk being accused of interfering with that mission, end quote. Cheney would later disagree, suggesting that Tom was wrong. He has, in this case, let's say, a misinterpretation. President Bush says he's opposed to establishing a special independent commission to probe how the government dealt with terrorism warnings before 9/11. He will later change his stance in the face of overwhelming support for the idea, and then will sabotage an agreement reached with Congress to establish the commission. But what led them to create the independent inquiries? By the summer of 2002, both the 9/11 Congressional Inquiry and the 9/11 Commission had examined the NSA's intercepts of various calls made by the hijackers to an al-Qaeda communications hub in Sana'a, Yemen. The 9/11 Congressional Inquiry refers to several of the calls and gives an idea of the context of them, but it does not mention those calls made by Nawaf al-Hazmi and possibly other hijackers from the United States after the USS Cole bombing, which are only disclosed after, in the media, representatives published them. However, this section of the inquiry report is heavily redacted, so most miss details, and the details remain unknown. It states that although the NSA intercepted the calls and disseminated dispatches about some of them, the NSA did not realize the hijackers were in the U.S. at the same time the calls were made until later receipts reveal that the NSA did know. The 9/11 Commission report contained a briefer section on the intercepts and deals with those led to the surveillance of an al-Qaeda summit in Malaysia in January of 2000. In addition, it mentions that al-Midar called his wife from San Diego in the spring of 2000, but fails to mention that the wife lived in an al-Qaeda communications hub and that the calls were intercepted by the NSA. The Los Angeles Times would later comment, quote, the 9/11 Congressional Inquiry and the September 11 Commission that came after it referred indirectly to the calls from Yemen to San Diego, but neither report disclosed what the NSA gleaned from the calls or why they were never discussed in the first place to the FBI, end quote. The publication of the 9/11 Commission report and revelations about domestic surveillance by the NSA will lead to increased media interest in and revelations about the intercepts starting from 2004. However, the press barely covered it at all, and by then, 9/11 conspiracy theories abounded, blanketed this remarkable revelation by the NSA and the CIA.